Hi everyone, my name is Maren Whitlock. I'm 34 years old. My father fired me from our family cargo shipping line in front of 27 dock workers, and 17 minutes after my sister took my headset, every live manifest on Pier 6 turned red. The harbor radio went dead right after that. Not quiet. Dead. 1 second. Channel 16 was full of clipped voices, tug captains calling positions, yard supervisors asking for clearance, someone laughing about coffee near Gate C. The next second, just a flat hiss that made the hair on my arms rise. And I was standing outside the operations trailer with my badge in my hand, watching my father pretend he hadn't just handed the company to the one person who thought ops meant clicking colored boxes on a screen. My sister, Brielle Whitlock, was smiling through the glass. She had my headset on backward. That morning, the yard was stacked high with blue containers, 6 and 7 deep, like metal apartment buildings blocking the gray winter sun. The forklifts were moving slow because the north lane was iced over, and the Ghana vessel had arrived 12 hours early with refrigerated cargo that couldn't sit. I had been there since 3:48 a.m. I remember because I logged the first temperature discrepancy at 3:52, with one glove on and my hair still wet from the shower. I had a paper cup of gas station coffee balanced on the routing board, and I was rerouting 23 containers before customs clearance froze the entire import lane. That was my job. No. That was my life. Whitlock Freight, Uchu Harbor had my childhood in its walls. I did homework in that operations trailer. I learned to read vessel schedules before I learned to parallel park. My mother used to joke that my first full sentence was "ETA revised." But in my family, knowing how things worked never mattered as much as making my father feel admired. And Brielle was very good at that. She arrived at 8:11 a.m. in a cream wool coat and suede boots that had no business being near diesel slush. She carried a latte with a pink lipstick print on the lid and walked past the dispatch window like she was entering a restaurant where everyone already knew her table. "Morning, team," she sang. Nobody answered right away because everyone was working. My father, Calvin Whitlock, came in behind her wearing his navy overcoat, the one he only wore when bankers or clients were visiting. That was my first warning. My second warning was the manila folder under his arm. My third was the way my mother, Lenora, wouldn't look at me. She stood near the coffee machine, twisting her wedding ring, smiling at Brielle like this was a surprise party and not a shift change in the middle of a port crunch. I had the harbor line in my left ear and a customs broker on speaker. I held up one finger to my dad, meaning, give me a second. He hated that. He hated when I made him wait in front of people. "Maren," he said, loud enough for the trailer to hear, "take off the headset." I muted the broker. "Dad, I'm in the middle of clearing Ghana reefer units. If we miss the window, take it off." The room changed. You know that silence people make when they want to hear everything but don't want to be caught listening? That was the sound inside the trailer. Keyboards slowed, radios lowered. Even Cole Mercer, our yard foreman, stopped writing on his clipboard. Brielle set her latte beside my routing board. On my routing board, right over a printed stack map I had marked with highlighter and grease pencil. "Careful," I said, moving it before the condensation touched the ink. She laughed lightly. "It's paper, Mare." "It's the pier plan. It's adorable that you still print things." My father smiled at that. That hurt more than it should have, because I had spent 11 years preventing his company from bleeding money in ways he never noticed. I knew which carriers padded detention fees. I knew which drivers lied about chassis damage. I knew which cranes ran slow in east wind. I knew that if a red seal number didn't match before noon, by 3 o'clock we'd be paying for someone else's mistake. But Brielle had a business degree, a clean Instagram page, and the gift of saying growth strategy in a room full of men who liked not understanding details. Dad opened the folder. "As of today, Brielle will be stepping into Director of Operations." Nobody moved. My hand was still on the headset. I thought I misheard him. Truly. My brain tried to protect me for half a second. Then Brielle reached across me and touched the tablet mounted beside my station. My tablet. The one with my saved alerts, my vessel notes, my emergency routing macros, my contacts, my color codes, my ugly little system that kept the whole pier breathing. Dad said I should shadow you for an hour, she said, but honestly, I think I can get the flow pretty fast. Ops is just clicking boxes, right? A couple of the younger dock guys looked down. Cole's jaw flexed. My father didn't correct her. He handed her the tablet. In front of everyone. I looked at his hand, then at his face, waiting for the wink, the explanation, the private aside that said this was temporary or client-facing or some stupid title thing, to make Brielle feel included. Nothing. Just my father, cold and proud, like he had finally solved the problem of me being necessary. "What's my role?" I asked. Dad sighed, as if I was embarrassing him by needing dignity. "We've discussed this as a family." I almost laughed. "As a family?" My mother whispered, "Marin, please don't make this difficult." There it was. The family motto, "Don't make this difficult." Not when Brielle crashed my first car, and I was told insurance would be easier if I said I'd been driving. Not when my parents used my college fund to pay off her failed boutique lease because you were always the practical one. Not when I spent Thanksgiving in the operations trailer during a storm surge while they posted photos from Brielle's engagement dinner at the waterfront club. "Don't make this difficult" meant swallow it cleanly so nobody has to hear you choke. Dad slid a document across the routing board. "We're restructuring. Your position is being eliminated." "Eliminated," I repeated. Brielle tilted her head with fake sadness. "It's not personal. That sentence is almost always a lie." My father added, "You'll receive 2 weeks severance, and I expect professionalism." Professionalism. From the man firing his own daughter during active port operations, the customs broker's muted call blinked on my screen. 3 vessels were approaching labor cutoff. The reefer alarm panel was showing 2 yellow warnings. Gate C had a truck queue backing toward public road access, and my father was watching my face, not the screens. He wanted tears. Or anger. Something he could point to later and call instability. So I gave him neither. I took off the headset and placed it on the console. Brielle picked it up immediately, like a crown. Then I unclipped my badge from my jacket. The plastic was scratched cloudy from years of being scanned at gates in rain, heat, fog, and 4 a.m. darkness. My name was half rubbed off. I set it beside the routing board. Cole said very quietly, "Calvin." Dad snapped, "Stay out of this." I looked at my mother. She stared at the floor. That told me everything. So I walked out. No speech. No slammed door. No begging my father to remember who answered calls when he had chest pains during the Maersk delay. No reminding Brielle that the boxes she was clicking contained medicine, produce, machine parts, family businesses, payrolls, people's promises. Just cold air, diesel fumes, gulls screaming overhead, and the trailer door closing behind me. I made it to the chain link fence before my phone buzzed. One message from Cole. "Marin, did you disable the live manifest bridge?" I stopped walking. My stomach dropped, not because I had done it. Because I hadn't. I turned back toward the trailer. Through the window, I saw Brielle tapping the tablet too fast, smiling too wide, surrounded by men who already knew something was wrong. Then, every screen inside the ops trailer flashed red, and the harbor radio died. For 2 seconds, nobody moved. Then the yard reacted before the people did. A top handler froze mid-turn with a 40-foot container hanging 6 feet off the pavement. 3 yard trucks braked at once near lane 4. A reefer alarm started screaming somewhere behind stack B, sharp and mechanical, like a smoke detector in a locked house. Through the trailer window, I saw Brielle pull the headset off and stare at it, as if the dead radio had personally betrayed her. My phone buzzed again. Cole, all manifests red. Gate locked out. Vessel ops holding. Where are you? I was standing 10 feet from the pedestrian gate, unemployed. That detail mattered. If I went back in, my father would say I sabotaged something. If I stayed outside, people could get hurt, cargo could spoil, and half the harbor could seize up because Pier 6 fed 2 rail lines and 4 coastal carriers. I typed back. Outside north fence. What changed? Cole didn't answer. Instead, the ops trailer door flew open and my father came out. His face was red in a way I knew too well. Not fear. Blame warming up. "Marin!" he shouted across the yard. I didn't move. He marched toward me, coat flapping, shoes slipping on frozen grit. "What did you do?" There it was. Not, "What happened?" Not, "Do you know what this is?" What did you do? I held up my empty hands. I walked out. You disabled the system. I don't have access anymore. You eliminated my position. Don't play games with me. Behind him, Brielle appeared in the trailer doorway, clutching my tablet to her chest. My mother hovered behind her, one hand over her mouth. I looked past them at the monitors. Red blocks, everywhere. A live manifest doesn't turn red because someone clicks the wrong icon. Red means the cargo ID, seal record, customs status, hazardous classification, or routing chain has broken. 1 red container is a problem. 10 is a bad morning. Every active container on Pier 6 being red meant the system no longer trusted the yard. That was catastrophic. Cole came out next, radio in one hand, phone in the other. "Calvin, the harbor channel is down for us. Tug dispatch says they can hear each other, but our base station is silent. Gate arms won't release trucks. Rail wants confirmation in 6 minutes or they'll skip the slot." Dad pointed at me without looking away. "She locked us out." Cole stared at him. "She's outside the fence. She built the system." "No," I said. Everyone looked at me. "I built workarounds, because the system you bought in 2018 couldn't handle split consignments or reefer priority. I did not build the system. I also didn't lock you out." Brielle stepped forward. "Then why did it happen right after you left?" I almost admired the speed. "I don't know," I said. "What did you touch?" Her mouth opened. Closed. Dad snapped. "Answer the question, Marin." "I wasn't asking you." Brielle's cheeks flushed. "I just accepted the admin prompt." My lungs went still. "What admin prompt?" She hugged the tablet tighter. "It said the session needed elevated control to sync the manifest bridge. So I clicked approve." Cole muttered something ugly. I looked at my father. "Please tell me you didn't give her my admin token." She needed operational authority. She needed training. She has my authority. It came out colder than I intended. "You fired me. Marin. You announced my position was eliminated in front of the crew." "Marin, enough." "You gave Brielle my tablet while 3 vessels were live and a customs window was open. Now you want me to fix it from the sidewalk?" His jaw clenched. "I am still your father." That used to work on me. It didn't anymore. From behind him, Cole said, "We don't have time for this." A horn blasted from the water, low and furious. I looked toward the berth. The Ghana vessel was still moored, but the coastal feeder behind it was drifting slow in the channel with tug assistance, waiting for clearance that our radio couldn't give. If we missed the movement order, Harbor Control would halt our berth. If they halted us, the carriers would divert. If the carriers diverted, Whitlock Freight wouldn't just lose money, it would lose trust. And trust is the only currency a cargo line can't borrow. I pointed to the tablet. "Put it on airplane mode." Brielle blinked. "What?" "Now," Dad barked. "Don't take orders from her." Cole turned on him. "Calvin, shut up." That landed harder than anything I'd said. Brielle fumbled with the tablet. "I don't know where." "Top right." "Swipe down." "Airplane icon." She did it. The reefer alarm kept screaming. I said, "Cole, are the red manifests showing checksum failure or authorization conflict?" He looked through the trailer window. "Authorization conflict. All active moves rejected." "Good. That means the data may still be intact." Dad exhaled like he had personally solved it. I cut my eyes to him. "No, that means you haven't destroyed it yet." My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. then saw the area code. Harbor Authority. I answered. This is Marin Whitlock. A woman's voice came through tight and clipped. Ms. Whitlock, this is Port Security Control. Are you currently operating Pier 6? I looked at my father. No, I said. I was terminated 17 minutes ago. A pause. Then, who is your current operations lead? My father reached for the phone. I stepped back. Calvin Whitlock appointed Brielle Whitlock. Another pause, shorter this time. Is Miss Brielle Whitlock certified for live hazardous manifest control? The yard noise seemed to drop away. I watched Brielle's expression change. Because she didn't know there was a certification. My father did. He absolutely did. I said, no. Port Security Control inhaled. Then Pier 6 is in violation of Harbor Operations Protocol. We are placing your berth under immediate administrative hold, pending verification. Dad's face went white. The woman continued. Do not move cargo. Do not release trucks. Do not alter digital records. A port compliance officer is en route. The line clicked dead. For a moment, the only sound was the reefer alarm and gulls overhead. Then my mother whispered, Calvin, what does that mean? I slid my phone into my pocket. It means, I said, looking at Brielle with my old headset hanging around her neck, the port just closed us. The words landed like a dropped container. The port just closed us. Not permanently. Not yet. But an administrative hold was bad enough. It meant no cargo moved without permission. Every minute became a bill. Every bill became a question from clients my father had spent 30 years convincing he was unshakable. Dad turned on Cole first because he couldn't turn on the Harbor Authority. Get the backup radio online. Cole didn't move. The backup runs through the same base station. Then use handhelds. Handhelds don't authorize berth movements. Do something. Cole looked at me. That made Dad angrier. Stop looking at her, he snapped. She doesn't work here. I said. Correct. My father's face tightened. He understood the trap 1 second too late. If I didn't work there, I couldn't be ordered. If I touched the system, I could be accused. If I fixed it for free, they'd erase what happened and call it family. Not again. A black SUV with Port Authority on the side rolled through gate 5 minutes later. The gate arm stayed up only because security opened it manually. 2 officers stepped out with clipboards and hard faces. Behind them came a woman in a charcoal coat, silver hair pulled into a knot. I knew her. Everyone did. Diane Voss, Senior Compliance Officer. She had once shut down an entire terminal for falsified hazardous weight declarations and didn't blink while executives begged. She looked at my father first. Mr. Whitlock. Diane, Dad said, forcing warmth. This is a misunderstanding. I'll determine that. Her eyes moved to Brielle. You are the acting operations lead? Brielle's confidence flickered. Yes, temporarily. We're restructuring. Certification card. Brielle glanced at Dad. Diane waited. Dad stepped in. She's under my authority. That is not what I asked. She has an MBA, Cole coughed into his fist. I looked away, because laughing would have been unprofessional, and apparently I was the only one still interested in that. Diane repeated, certification card. Brielle's voice went small. I don't have one on me. Do you have one at all? Silence? Diane wrote something on her clipboard. My father leaned closer, lowering his voice. Diane, we've known each other a long time. Marin had an emotional reaction to a staffing change and, no, I said. Everyone turned. Dad's eyes warned me to stop. I didn't. No, I repeated. Do not put my name on your decision. Diane studied me. Ms. Whitlock, were you operations lead at the start of shift? Yes. Were you removed from that role? Yes. At what time? Approximately 8:28 a.m. Did you transfer certified control to another qualified operator? No. I was terminated before a transfer occurred. Dad barked. That's not accurate. Cole said, "It is." My father looked like Cole had slapped him. Diane turned to Cole. "Name?" "Cole Mercer. Yard foreman." "Did you witness the removal?" "Yes." "Did Ms. Whitlock retain access afterward?" "No." "Badge surrendered." "Headset surrendered." "Tablet transferred to Brielle." Brielle whispered, "Dad told me to take it." Diane's pen paused. That tiny sentence cracked the whole morning open. My mother moved forward. "Brielle, honey." "No," Brielle said, suddenly pale. "He said Marin made everything seem harder than it was. He said the system practically ran itself." I stared at my father. For years, I thought he resented me because I reminded him of problems. I was the warning light, the audit trail, the voice saying no when he wanted yes. But hearing it said plainly that he had convinced my sister my work was theater made something old and loyal inside me finally go quiet. Diane asked, "What exactly did you approve on the tablet?" Brielle swallowed. "A prompt. It said elevated control required." "Did you read the full prompt?" "No." "Did it request reassignment of certified operator token?" "I don't know. I did." And now the red manifests made sense. I looked at Cole. "The system thinks my token was reassigned to an uncertified user during live hazardous and reefer operations." Diane's eyes sharpened. "That would trigger an integrity hold." "Yes," I said. "All active records become suspect until a certified operator verifies chain of custody." Dad seized on it. "Fine. Marin can verify it." "No," Diane and I said at the same time. Diane looked at me, then back at him. "She is no longer your employee." Dad's voice dropped. "This is ridiculous." "She's my daughter." "That is not an operations credential." The wind cut through the yard. Somewhere near the berth, a crewman shouted that the feeder vessel was being reassigned. I saw Cole flinch. Losing that slot would cost more than Brielle's entire boutique failure. Diane said, "Mr. Whitlock, until a certified operations lead is formally active, Pier 6 remains closed. Additionally, we will require a written incident report, access logs, and proof of qualification for anyone who touched live manifest control." My father's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time all morning, he looked old. Then he turned to me with a face I recognized from childhood. Not apology, expectation. "Marin," he said quietly, "please." That word should have moved me. It didn't. Because please, from him, never meant "I'm sorry." It meant obey without making me say "I need you." I zipped my jacket higher. I can't touch Whitlock systems without authorization, liability coverage, and written terms. Brielle stared at me. "You want a contract? Right now?" "Yes," Dad exploded. "This is extortion." "No," I said. "This is consulting." Cole looked at the ground, hiding a smile. Diane's expression didn't change, but I saw approval in her eyes. My father stepped close enough that I could smell his coffee. "If this company goes down, that is on you." And there it was. The last chain. I shook my head. "No. It's on the person who removed the certified operator during live cargo movement." His nostrils flared. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was not Cole. It was a group text from 3 client reps, urgent, all caps, asking why their containers were frozen in a port hold. Then another message arrived from an unknown number. "Marin Whitlock? This is Soren Vale, North Star Logistics. Heard Pier 6 is down. If you are no longer with Whitlock, call me immediately. We need an ops director who actually knows the harbor." I looked from the message to my father. He saw enough of my face to understand something had shifted. Not in the yard. In me. I didn't call Soren Vale right away. That would have been satisfying, but satisfaction is how people make sloppy decisions in a port yard. Instead, I slid my phone back into my pocket and looked at Diane Voss. "If Whitlock hires me as an emergency outside consultant, can I verify chain of custody without violating the hold?" Diane nodded once. "If terms are signed, scope is limited," and I observed the process. My father's relief appeared too soon. I held up a hand. My rate is $800 an hour, 4-hour minimum, paid in advance. I require written indemnity for actions taken before my engagement. And Brielle is removed from all live systems until certified. Brielle's mouth fell open. 800. You just cost more than that in the time it took you to say it. My mother whispered, Marin, please. This is family. I turned to her. For 34 years, my mother had made herself soft enough to survive my father, and then called that softness peace. She loved me, I think, but she loved quiet more. Family fired me 17 minutes before a port closure, I said. This is business. Dad's lips thinned. 200. I laughed. 900. His eyes flashed. You said 8. That was before you negotiated. Cole made a choking sound and turned it into a cough. Diane checked her watch. Mr. Whitlock, the feeder vessel is leaving the channel in 4 minutes. My father looked toward the water. That did it. Not me. Not the humiliation. Not the safety risk. The vessel. Fine, he snapped. No, I said. Say the full terms. He looked like the words had splinters. You are hired as an emergency outside consultant. 900 an hour. 4-hour minimum. Indemnity. Brielle removed from live systems. And payment in advance. His jaw worked. I don't have a checkbook in the yard. Wire transfer. Marin, Soren Vale just texted me. The yard went still again, but differently this time. North Star Logistics was Whitlock's biggest competitor on the coast. Newer cranes, deeper credit, cleaner software. My father hated them with a personal passion usually reserved for betrayal and property taxes. Dad's voice dropped. Why is Soren Vale texting you? Because people notice competence when it leaves a building. For a second, I thought he might actually apologize. Instead, he pulled out his phone. The wire hit 3 minutes later. I confirmed it, then accepted a temporary visitor badge from Diane, not from my father. That mattered to me more than it should have. When I stepped back into the operations trailer, the room felt smaller than I remembered. Maybe because I was seeing it as a place I used to work, not a place I belonged. Brielle stood beside my old station, arms folded, headset hanging around her neck like evidence. Her latte was still on the counter, untouched and sweating. Move, I said. She bristled. You don't have to be rude. I'm not being rude. I'm preventing you from clicking anything else. Cole sat at the secondary console. Logs are up. Read only? Locked read only per Diane. Diane stood behind us, clipboard tucked under one arm, watching every movement. I put on a spare headset, but didn't connect transmit. Then I opened the access logs. There it was. 8/31/14. Certified operator token transfer initiated. 8/31/22. Elevated control approved. 8/31/25. Receiving user B. Whitlock. 8/31/26. Certification status null. 8/31/27. Integrity lockdown. Every active container record had been flagged because the system couldn't prove a qualified person was controlling regulated cargo. Hazardous paint solvents. Lithium batteries. Pharmaceuticals in reefers. Medical equipment headed inland by rail. Not boxes. Obligations. I exported the logs to a clean drive under Diane's supervision. Then I began verification. Cole, I need yard camera timestamp at 8:28, stack B through D. On it. Call Manny at gate C from your cell. Tell him no manual releases, no matter who yells. Already told him. He said especially Calvin? Tell Manny I appreciate him. Across the room my father paced like a man watching a surgeon operate on his own wallet. Brielle hovered too close. I didn't look at her. Take 2 steps back. I'm just trying to learn. That made my hands pause over the keyboard. Now? Now she wanted to learn? I turned. Then learn this. Operations is not software. It is memory, law, weather, timing, trust, and fear, arranged in a way that keeps people alive and cargo moving. The system is just where consequences become visible. Her eyes filled, and for once I didn't soften, because tears had saved Brielle from speeding tickets, rent, apologies, and accountability. They would not save a harbor. I verified the chain by hand: vessel discharge records, customs releases, seal photos, temperature logs, hazmat declarations, rail cutoffs. My old notes still populated the side panel. Ghana reefers, priority. Check compressors. Lithium units, no heat exposure. Keep west stack. Do not release C7781. Seal mismatch, pending broker confirmation. I had written those at 4:16 a.m., never imagining I'd be paid emergency rates to prove I'd done my job before being fired from it. At 9:22, the first block of manifests turned yellow. The room exhaled. Dad stepped forward. Good. Then we can move. No, I said. Yellow means pending human verification. He stopped. At 9:37, the reefers cleared green. Cole immediately called the reefer techs to confirm temperatures manually. Smart man. At 9:49, the hazmat units cleared. Diane authorized limited internal movement. The harbor radio came back after I isolated the corrupted operator session and reset the base station handshake. Voices flooded the trailer again. Annoyed, urgent, alive. By 10:06, Pier 6 was no longer closed. It was wounded, expensive, and under review. But breathing. Diane signed the temporary clearance and turned to my father. This prevents immediate shutdown, she said. It does not close the investigation. His relief curdled. Investigation? She handed him a copy of the incident notice. Unauthorized control of regulated cargo systems. Failure to maintain certified operator coverage. Potential falsification. If records show Ms. Brielle Whitlock was represented as qualified. Brielle whispered, "Dad?" My father didn't answer her. He was looking at me with something like hatred and need braided together. "You can come back," he said. "Not thank you." Not, I was wrong. "You can come back." I removed the spare headset and set it on the console. "No," I said. My phone buzzed again. Soren Vale. Offer is real. Director title. Full authority. Call when ready. This time, I smiled. My father stared at my smile like it was another system failure. "You're really going to leave?" he asked. I looked around the trailer. At the routing board where my badge had sat like a tiny resignation letter. At the crew pretending not to listen. At Brielle, pale and smaller than I'd ever seen her, finally understanding that authority handed to you by someone powerful can still burn your hands. "I already left," I said. Dad lowered his voice. "Marin, don't be dramatic. We can fix this internally." "No," Diane Voss said before I could answer. "You will fix it formally." My father's face hardened. "This is a family company." Diane clipped her pen to her clipboard. "Then I suggest your family learn port law." Cole made a sound that might have been a laugh, but when Dad looked at him, he didn't apologize. That was the first real crack in my father's kingdom. Not the red manifests. Not the closed berth. The fact that people had stopped flinching. I packed nothing, because there was nothing left to pack. My coffee mug had been broken 2 winters earlier, and replaced by whatever paper cup was closest. My emergency gloves were in the yard, probably claimed by someone smarter than me. My notes were backed up in my head, where my father couldn't revoke access. At the door, Brielle said, "Marin." I stopped. For most of my life, her voice had pulled me backward. Into explanations. Into forgiveness. Into cleaning up the glittering wreckage she left behind. She swallowed. I didn't know. I believed her. That was the worst part. She hadn't known because not knowing had always been allowed, encouraged even. One last sisterly kindness. "Yes," I said. "But mostly I'm tired." She looked down at the headset in her hands. "My headset." Then she held it out to me. I shook my head. "Keep it," I said. "But don't wear it until you know what every voice on it is trusting you with." Outside, the yard had started moving again. Slowly. Carefully. Green lights blinking back across the stacks 1 block at a time. My father followed me to the fence. Of course he did. Men like him hated audiences until they needed one. "Marin," he said, "North Star will use you." I turned. "You did." His mouth shut. For once, there was no instant comeback. No lecture about loyalty. No reminder of the roof he'd kept over my head when I was a child, as if parenting had been a loan accruing interest. The wind pushed gray hair across his forehead. He suddenly looked less like the man who ran the harbor, and more like a man standing in a yard full of things he didn't understand. "I built this company," he said. "Yes," I replied, "and I kept it moving." Then I walked through the pedestrian gate with my temporary visitor badge still warm from Diane's printer. Sorenvale answered on the second ring. "I heard you saved Pier 6, he said. "I stabilized Pier 6, I corrected. "Saving it is someone else's problem now." He laughed. "Fair. Come in today?" I looked back once. Through the trailer window, I saw my father standing alone beside the routing board. My mother had gone to Brielle. Cole was already on the radio, doing the work. The blue containers towered behind them all, indifferent and exact. "Tomorrow?" I said. "Today I'm going home." And I did. For the first time in 11 years, I went home before noon. I took a shower so hot the mirror disappeared. I slept through 6 missed calls from my mother and 1 from my father. When I woke up, there was a voicemail from Brielle, not crying, not performing, just quiet. "I signed up for the certification course," she said. "I should have done that before touching anything. I'm sorry." I saved it. I didn't answer that day. Some apologies need to stand alone for a while. The investigation lasted 7 weeks. Whitlock Freight was fined heavily, though not fatally. My father had to hire an outside compliance officer, and for 6 months every operator schedule had to be submitted to the harbor authority in advance. Cole became director of operations. He called me before accepting. "Feels weird," he said. "It should," I told him. "That means you respect the job." Brielle did finish the certification course. She failed the practical exam once, passed the second time, and sent me a photo of the card without a caption. I sent back, "Good. Now keep learning." My father didn't call for 3 months. When he finally did, I almost let it go to voicemail. His voice sounded rough. "I told people you were difficult," he said. I waited. He breathed out, "You were usually right." It wasn't a full apology, but it was the closest thing to truth he had ever handed me. "I know," I said. 6 months later, I stood in North Star's new operations center before sunrise, looking out over a different yard stacked with blue containers washed silver by morning fog. My title was Director of Harbor Operations. My badge was new. My headset fit perfectly. My team listened when I spoke, challenged me when they needed to, and nobody put coffee on the routing board. At 6:14 a.m., a trainee beside me pointed at a yellow alert and said, "Is it just a box delay?" I smiled, not unkindly. "No," I said, "it's never just a box." Then I showed her how to read the chain behind it, the vessel, the driver, the seal, the temperature, the promise. Outside, cranes moved against the pale sky like patient giants. The harbor radio crackled in my ear, alive with voices trusting us to answer. And this time, when the sun rose over the containers, I wasn't standing outside the fence. I was exactly where I belonged. If you had been in my place, with your own father handing your life's work to someone else, would you have gone back in to save the port? Or would you have kept walking? If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. Would you have walked away quietly? Or would you have made sure everyone knew the truth? And if you want more stories like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.